What I want to do in this video is just remind you of what we do with fractions in order to help us work with powers of 10 when we divide with decimals. So this is when we're going to be using what we have learned quite a while ago, our keep, change, and flip, what we know that Chloe taught us a long time ago. So we keep the dividend and it stays the same. Then we change the division to multiplication, and then we flip our second fraction. So it's no longer going to be 1 over 10, it's going to be 10 over 1, which you know, of course, is just 10. So we're going to call that now 80, because 8, if you want to do 8 over 1 times 10 over 1 equals 80. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that same thinking there. When we divide by a fraction, we're really multiplying by the reciprocal. And it's the same thing when we divide by a decimal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that keep, change, flip, just to help us here. So the 8 stays the 8. The division becomes multiplication. Okay, now even though this is now, I'm talking about a 1/10, 0.1 divided by 0.1, I'm now going to say that that is the same thing as 1/10, and then the reciprocal is going to be 10 over 1. So we still end up getting 80, just like we did on the last slide, but now we're saying it's 8 divided by 1/10 is the same thing as 8 times 10. Again, same thing we knew with fractions, now we know it with decimals. And what we're going to do is we're going to change all our division problems into multiplication, because you don't even have to really do anything with multiplication, which is so awesome. Alright, here I'm going to take that same kind of thinking again, and I'm going to use it with a new problem. So I keep my 52.6. That stays exactly the same. Sorry, but a decimal. Your division becomes multiplication. And now I'm going to ask myself, 10. What is the reciprocal of 10? The reciprocal is going to be 1/10. I'm going to write 1/10 over here. But that's the same thing as 0.1 for us as a decimal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply 526 by 1, because that's how I multiply when I have decimals. So I have 526. Then all I need to do, sorry, let me put that, sorry, I won't do that then. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to count up the number of digits I have behind the decimal. I have 1, 2 behind the decimal, so I have 1, 2 behind the decimal. So 52 and 6/10 divided by 10 is 5 and 26/100, which I really hope makes sense, because you have, for example, you have this, like if I think about this as being like $52.60, if 10 people share it, they're all going to have less than what they started out with, because again, this much money, this many people, this is how much each person gets. What I'd like you to see in this slide is just what we've done before, and we're just going to, again, change division into multiplication. Keep, change, flip. And you guys are so good at that. So I keep my 83 and 75/100. My division becomes multiplication. And 10, the reciprocal of 10 is 1 over 10. This is really 10 over 1. The reciprocal is 1 over 10. So then that's the same thing as 0.1. Now all I do is just multiply the numbers for without the decimal. So that's 8,375 times 1, or just 8,375. And then I'm going to count up the number of decimal numbers behind the decimal I have. So I have 1, 2, 3. So I have 1, 2, 3. So again, this $83.75, 10 people are sharing it. It should make sense if people get around $8. Let's look at the next one. So now I have 4 and 61/100, and I'm going to divide it by 0.1. So again, I keep the first number, I change to multiplication. The reciprocal of 1/100, because this is 1/100. The reciprocal of 1/100, or if I flip it, I get 100. So now I'm just going to do what I've done so many times already, well, you guys have done it, is that I'm going to take the 461 and multiply it by 1. So that's 461. I have my my 2 zeros. I have to add on. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count up the numbers behind the decimal. So here I have 1 number behind the decimal, 2 numbers behind the decimal, so I need 1, 2 numbers behind the decimal, in my answer. So I get 461. I hope this helps. If at any point you aren't sure about something as you're practicing tonight, just go back and watch this again. But again, just take your division problem, turn it into multiplication, and then just go through and do what you know what to do with decimals. Okay, thanks.